All right, everybody, welcome back to Agent Tactics. It is Monday at 1:30, totally different time. We generally do this Thursdays at 10 a.m. So keep an eye out for the emails. I send these out every week. We usually do different topics, but most of the time it's YouTube and video based. Kristi Jencks is my personal coach. And so I always beg her to any chance we can get to come talk to my people. She's amazing, and she did a really awesome talk at Tom Ferry recently about database, which is something we are working on for me personally. So I want to bring her on here. Kristi, thank you so much for helping me come up with this, which is, I'm going to screen share real quick. This was all of the idea of Kristi. So everybody in the comment section real quick, just give her a quick TY as a thank you. But if I can move. So she convinced me to do this through Stan Store. And so these are all the playbooks that come out from from me. So every week we do an Agent Tactics. I do a playbook. And so you can get all of the basic information that was in there and to really help out. So Kristi was the one who really uh, pushed me to do that. So that's why you're getting these. I dropped this link in the chat. So if you want to click through here, do me a favor, just make sure you sign up for the email list. But right below that is where all the goodies are. So that link for the playbooks is right here. It says Agent Tactics. And then the link to all the old videos that we've done is right here. And there's some other goodies in there as well. So I want to show you that. I'm going to stop share and let Kristi Jencks take over. Hi, Kristi.
Hello there. Thank you guys for having me. And thank you for having me on a Monday when I couldn't make it on a Thursday.
No, no worries. When Coach Kristi says I can do Monday at 1:30, I'm like, done. We'll make it work. So
I love it. Yeah, well, before we jump in, I'm just curious, what do you guys struggle the most with your database? What's the hardest part? And when we say database, let's talk about all the people. So it's all of your online leads, it's your past clients and your sphere, it's your open house leads. What do you guys struggle with the most?
Consistent follow-up and just trying to keep on top of all of that.
Okay, consistent follow-up. What else?
I would say that's mine as
add,
well. Go ahead.
I'd add on to that. I've got a thing on my wall that says only 25% try twice, 12% make 3% three tries, and 85% don't do much of anything at all. And so 8 out of 10 sales come in the last, I gotta take my 8 to 12 or 8 to 15 contacts. So that's something I write. How do I follow up on the leads that I get and make sure that I'm doing 15? That's my plan, or that's my idea. It's not a plan yet.
So we'll go from idea into implementation, right? That'll be my number one goal today for you guys. Take something from today and implement it. Don't just spend, the next 30, 40 minutes with us and then go back to life and not make that change. Definitely think about what is the change that you can make. It's funny that you shared those stats because NAR shared a really interesting stat recently. 79% of leads are never followed up with.
Yeah.
That's mind blowing, you guys. And I'm not going to call anybody out, but I see it happen all the time. People buy leads online, they boost, whether it's through their CRM or something, they boost their listings and then they get these leads and they don't call them because they write them off as like, oh, that's just a Google lead. That's just a social media lead. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's actual real people out there. 79% of these leads are never followed up with. And we know that the vast majority of agents only do it one time. Right? One time. Okay, so setting it up, using it, communication, consistent follow-up structure. Those are all things we're going to cover today, Jeremy.
Cool.
And
Well, I'm going to let
organizing
you roll. I was going to ask a bunch of questions, but I was reading through all of your slides and I'm like, I'm going to confuse people. I'm just going to let you roll.
Okay, well then we'll kind of go in there, but I do want it to be a discussion. This isn't just me speaking at you guys for a while, but I do have a framework of how to simplify what this can look like for you. So the very first thing that I see as a common mistake that a lot of agents make is that they don't take the time to actually set up their CRM. right? So let's just say when we're working a database, can you work out of an Excel sheet? Yes, you can. And I could also ride a bike everywhere. I could also walk everywhere. It's just not the most efficient way to do it. So can you do that? 100% you can, but you are limiting your ability to implement everything else that you can. And the amount of money that's been spent on developing these CRMs nowadays, like it's just ridiculous. Why try to operate out of an Excel sheet or a written paper when you could have so many good tools? So I'm sure several people are going to want to know, what CRM do I recommend? I have my top 3 that I recommend. There's only one that I don't like, and I'm not even going to say their name. There's only one that I don't like, but for the most part, they'll all be able
KV
to do something. No, it's not KV Core.
Oh,
They're
darn.
they're okay, but no, my favorite is Follow Up Boss, and purely for the reason that they play well with everybody. Okay, when I say they play well with everybody, if you're a BombBomb user, they play well with BombBomb. If you want call and text automation and things like that, they play well with them. They play well with all of your email management systems. They play well with Zapier. They play well with all the different tools. So their back end is set up to work with other additional systems that make your life easy. That's why they're my number one. My number two favorite is Sierra Interactive, and that's different from Follow Up Boss because it's an all-in-one system. They have your website on the front and they have your CRM on the back, and I love the simplicity of it. And that's why number 3 would be Lofty, is my number 3, and it's similar to Sierra Interactive in that it's an all-in-one encompassing system. You don't need to have a secondary website when you have a Lofty or a Sierra site, and they also play well with others, and all 3 of them have AI built into them and automation built into them. So I know those are some of the questions that a lot of people always ask, which ones you recommend. Those are my top 3, but you can't go wrong even with a KV Core. Boomtown is, in my opinion, is becoming archaic, but I know they're working on trying to reboot that platform. There are a lot of great ones out there. You just got to find the one that you're going to use. That's the second part, right? But so the first thing is setting it up for success, right? That's probably the one part that I want you to slow down to speed up. What does it mean to set it up for success? One of the most important things that you could do is figure out your lead sources and systematize it. When I come in and audit, this is oftentimes what I'll see. It'll say like lead source, center of influence, and then another one will say sphere of influence, and then they'll have a 4th lead source that's SOI or COI. It's all the same lead source, sphere of influence, center of influence, COI, SOI, but instead of having 4 lead sources, make it into 1. This helps you set yourself up for the automation. So here's another one that I'll see, Google. I'm like, okay, Google's pretty big, right? Is that a Google pay-per-click lead? Is that a Google organic lead? Is that a Google business lead? We need to know where our business comes from because we're going to set things up in the future that help us create more intimacy with our clients, right? You found us on Facebook. You found me on Instagram. You found me on TikTok. Or it could just say social media. But what do you think is going to help you when you're trying to decide which platform do I leverage? Social media or kind of niching down? And it doesn't take a long time, but all I'm suggesting is take a moment and get your and like really figure out what are your lead sources, and don't just have it say something like import, because that's the other one that I see. 450 leads were imported. I get that, but take some time to do that. Super simple. The second one is figure out how you want to use tagging systems. How many of you guys, I'm curious, how many of you guys are using tags in your CRM? Okay, Linda. Okay, Lynn, Eric. Okay, I saw several hands go up. I'm curious, what are some of the tags? Throw it in the chat. What are some of the tags that you find yourself using on repeat? And does everybody know when I say tags? Okay, so boomer, I like that. Kristi Jencks, boomer. I'm not a boomer. I'm Gen X. We're a lost generation because I'm 1980. So I'm not a millennial and I'm not quite a Gen X. But open house, buyer, referral, PC, SOI, open house, S. I just got letters. YouTube buyer, farm, location specific. I love it. Past client, Geo 1, 2, and 3. Yes, Kathy is talking specifically about how we took her database and put it into 3 groups so she could implement her plan. 1980, Jamie Knight is also 1980. So, okay. Tags, I'm going to actually, I wasn't going to share my screen, but I think this is good for me to share with you guys, just some ideas. So when I say that you should think about how you want to use tags, the reason that, and you can screenshot this, and Jeremy, I'll give you the slides, you can share them with people. I may not go over every slide, but we can refer back to these. So when I talk about tags, you guys, what I'm saying is I want you to be able to filter and find your leads a little bit easier. So I'm a foster and adoptive mom, and I meet a ton of people either through foster care classes or through like adoption, Facebook groups and things like that. So whenever I find somebody, a lot of times I'll put a relationship tag on them. Did I meet them from church? Did I meet them at an open house, right? What was my relationship with them? Do I play pickleball with them? I don't play pickleball. I'm not that cool. I do puzzles. So, where did I meet this person at Hobby Lobby, right? Like, what is my relationship with them? But I also love geographic tags because this allows me to take my upcoming listings or take a really hot listing that maybe it's not mine, it's someone else, but I want to push it to my clients. I can pull geographically where my clients are. Someone mentioned buyer, seller. Yeah, I have buyer tags. I have seller tags. All this allows me to do is to be able to find my people a little bit easier. So then I can send more intimate messages. So here's something that's like super annoying to me. And if any of you guys do this to me, well, now you know your secret's out. But one thing that I can't stand is when real estate agents put me on their email newsletter that's designed for their clients. Think that through. Okay, Tom's nodding his head. Think that through. It doesn't matter to me, right? Like, I get it. You're trying to do it. Kelly says, oops. Kelly, you might, if you're sending it to me, you might just be going into my other folder. But a simple tag that says real estate agent, right, could eliminate realtors from your email newsletter that's clearly designed for buyers and sellers, right? Or a geographic tag, because maybe your clients don't care if this listing's on the other side of town, but they would care if it's geographically close to them and it's coming on the market and they might know somebody that's coming. So tags just allow you to filter and find your clients a little bit easier. That's the number 2 through. Now, my biggest pet peeve, and I have several coaching clients on here, so they know this about my biggest pet peeve. I love that. Golf, dog rescue, foodies. Yes. And so Eric, the second part to that. So Eric put in the chat that he likes to use like golf, dogs. I set myself up on Google alerts for things that I don't naturally follow, but that I have a large client base. So for instance, ASU football. I'm not an ASU football fan, but as you can imagine, as a Phoenician, if you will, I have a lot of clients that are like gung-ho about ASU. So I just put myself on an ASU football Google alert so that when something happens with that program, I get that notification and then I grab my tag ASU football. And now I'm able to either send a text message or send an email to stay top of mind, but it's also very custom to my clients. I wouldn't send that to my entire database, just to my ASU fans, right? Those kind of things. So I love that. Should we set up rules to set the tags up automatically? That's not a bad idea. So that comes into play with automation. So yes, you can set up rules that when a lead source comes in from a specific zip code, for instance. So if you're using some of the smarter programs that also do lead generation, they will set those up for you. So like a Ylopo would set that up for you. If you're running any type of Google pay-per-click ad, 100% you should have the automation in place that when a lead comes in, tag the zip code, tag the landing page. So for instance, if I'm running something for Shamrock Estates, which is a community in my area, if I'm spending money on something like that and they're coming into that landing page, I want that as a tag. So then anytime I have a Shamrock listing coming up or something like that, I can go ahead and do that. So yes, if you're that advanced, I highly recommend it. So the next big one are stages. Every CRM calls them something different, but this is how you know where your people are, okay? So if you are a Boomtown user, it's going to sound something like hot, new, watch, nurture. If you're a KV Core user, I actually don't know what they call theirs in, but I think there's like a qualify. There's a couple different ones, right? What about my Lofty users? What do we call the people like in their stages? Whether they're hot. If you have a hot client in Lofty, what stage is that? Where are they at in the pipeline? It's hot. Okay, so Cristobal says hot. If you're a Sierra Interactive user, it's going to be something like new, qualify, active, prime, pending, closed. One of the cool things I love about Follow Boss, and this is why they're one of my favorites, is they actually let you name your stages to how you want to. So it depends on your system. Your system may set your names up for you. So like Lofty and Sierra, they set your names up for you, and you just have to figure out how you want to work with their names. So does KV Core. Most of the big platforms do. But then Follow Up Boss actually allows you to create your own stages. They only do not allow you to delete closed, I think, and lead. Everything comes in as a lead. So yes, custom stages and renaming the stages is a really, really important piece. Some of you guys will overanalyze this, and some of you are just going to say, whatever my system tells me to do is what I'm going to do. The end result is, if I ask you, you have a client who's not going to do anything for 8 months, put it in the chat. What group of people are they in that you could find and work them by a group of people? Is it a watch? Is it a long-term nurture, a warm watch? There you go. See, so some of you guys are a lot of nurtures and some warms, right? A 5-star system. You just need to be able to identify the stage and name it, right? So you should have a definition for how people, I like that, seed nurture would also work. So here's 2 different examples of what this could look like. This is a Sierra example. This is a follow-up boss example from someone that's also working Zillow Flex leads, which is why you see that Zillow icon, right? So what does a lead mean to you? For me, new or lead means new, never been touched. So how many people do I want in lead or new? 0. I don't want anybody in there. Now, I coach some people that say, well, I'll keep somebody in lead or new up to a month, right? That's just their rule. They say, and you can, until I get a hold of you, you stay in lead for like 30 days. Okay. As long as you know how people work. You can think of these also as pipeline, right? I'm managing my pipeline. I need to be able to identify people that are more urgent and people that are not quite as urgent. Because when you do this, you're able to prioritize, right? That's why I call it managing your pipeline. One of the most important things that I see is that not everybody has the same amount of time to do lead follow-up. And several of you guys said follow-up and consistent follow-up. What are some of the things that keep us from consistently following up? What keeps us?
For me, it's letting everything else get in my business and then not prioritizing the follow-up. That was actually going to be my question to you as you were going through this. This sounds like a lot of work to everybody. And I'm sure if it sounds like a lot of work to you, put a 1, because for me, I'm like, how do I prioritize this? How do I make this a priority? How do I make sure that I'm actually doing this on a weekly basis?
Okay, I like this. So I'm just going to read this. What busy work, scheduling, shiny objects, prioritization, not knowing what to say, forgetting. shiny sorrel syndrome, right? Finding other things to do and getting stuck, right? So Jeremy brings up a really good point. These are just the setup for success, right? I understand that it feels overwhelming, and I promise you, you could figure out your stages in 10 minutes. 10 minutes, right? And if all you did was you left today's call and you said, I'm going to figure out my stages, right? How do people move through my system? You pick your definition. Anybody that's ready to buy in less than 3 months, I put them in hot. If they're over 3 months, I throw them into nurture. Just make a decision. Don't overanalyze it. Will there be one-offs? Yes. But 10 minutes, you could set yourself up for success. And then next week, you go back and you say, okay, lead sources. I'm just going to identify my top 10 most frequent lead sources. And I'm going to go from there. And then all of a sudden, you're going to get some random Z buyer lead or something like that. And you're going to say, oh, that doesn't exist. Okay, add it, right? It's truly just taking it chunk by chunk, right? Do one thing at a time, focus on one thing a week. And before you know it, 6 weeks from now, it'll be set up and humming along, purring just like you want. I shared this at the Elite Retreat that I did not prospect last year for almost 10 months. Like, let me put that into perspective for you.
Coach, oh my goodness.
I know. I consistently sell a lot of real estate every single year, and much of that's done through open houses and various lead pillars. And last year, I didn't do that. I had different things going on in my life. Many of you guys know I got diagnosed with cancer, and it wasn't the priority in my life at that time. I was still able to sell 22 homes last year, 22 closed without spending a dime on marketing and without doing prospecting, because I put these things in place over the past, ever since I've had a CRM. I've never not had one and used it. And I share an example, and this is why when we say, how do I make it a priority? How do I not let other things come in the way? I share an example of, this was actually the toughest sale of last year. This home right here on Elizabeth Lane. This lead was in my database for 7 years. The first 4 years, I was a great agent. I called the lead. I did things. Something happened. I don't know, but something happened that after 4 years, we stopped calling this person. And we went on the listing appointment with him, and he just decided not to sell. So he gives us a call and he says, I'm going to sell my home. I'm actually going to be interviewing quite a few agents, but you guys stuck with me for the past 7 years. I felt like I at least owed you an interview. When we looked up the lead, we hadn't called him in 4 years. So what was he getting, you guys? He was getting his monthly home value report. He was getting my email newsletter, and he was getting the automations from the system. But he thought that he was still hearing from my husband and I. So that's why I stand on a pedestal. Like, I know this is hard, and I know that but it's also going to cover your back when you're busy. So most of the time, you guys brought up, if someone said procrastination, forgetting, but most of the time it's because we're busy. For real. Like, most of the time it's we're out showing properties, right? Like, I mean, I know Merrill's leaving here in like 20 minutes and he's going to go show properties for the next 4 hours. So when does he make his calls, right? When do we do these things? Most of the time it's you're busy. When you take time to figure out, remember I said it's pipeline management. When you take time to figure out your stages, if I have 10 minutes, do you think I'm going to call my nurture leads that are not going to buy for a year? Or am I going to call my hot leads, or the ones that I'm trying to get in front of? It reduces decision fatigue, which is, nobody said that, but someone said prioritization. Someone said time management. At the end of the day, I don't have to, actually at the beginning of the day, I don't wait till the end of the day, because that's a lie I tell myself. If Kristi ever says she'll make her calls at 3, she's flat out lying to you guys. I know that the best time for me to make my calls is going to be earlier in the day. I'm garbage at 3. At 3 o'clock, I'm thinking about, what am I making these kids for dinner? I've got to drive them all around. Maybe you're really good at afternoon calls. I'm not. So I make mine in the beginning of the day. But when I log into my CRM, I never have to think, Who am I going to call today? The CRM tells me who to call. And if I don't have time, if I have 10 minutes to make calls, I'm going to hit the stage that is going to get me an appointment right away. That's the stage I'm going to prioritize. And then if I have more time, let's say I do have a full hour of power, or I don't have any appointments, so I'm just going to hammer the phones all day. Well, now I can go and hunt for more business through some of those long-term stages. Does that make sense of why I feel like it's really important for you to know when I have a client in a specific stage? It's because I need to know, is this urgent? Jason Pantano once referred to it as this way. He says, you need to be able to, and heck, you could name your stages walking, jogging, running for all I care, because that makes sense. And I love the visual. He says, you need to be able to identify, is this client walking, meaning they're just do, I'm not super serious, right? Are they jogging, right? Now I'm a little bit more serious. We're narrowing down our time frame. Or are they running? And that means you'd better react quickly and keep pace with them. That's what the stages do. Just don't overthink it, right? Jeremy, ask me questions so that I don't go too deep on this, because I could talk about this forever. So like that, those are the basics of setting up. Everything else is more advanced. It's automations, it's AI, it's that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I kind of want to get into the AI of it a little bit, because I know my problem is too. Okay, my big problems, and I'm sure this is many people's problems, is I forget about it. I don't prioritize it. I don't put it in my schedule. Number two, I stop looking at what my goals were. So I get caught up in like running around. So then I forget that, oh, I was going to close 100 homes this year. I'm at 10. Where should I be spending my time? And then I spend time the wrong direction. So I think for me personally is focusing more on that, but then how do I automate some of this stuff?
Yeah, so I'm glad you talked about the automation. Here's the thing. None of this works, or sorry, the automation won't work if you don't have those things in place. And that's where most of the time I see automation go wrong. How many of you, maybe you're on a team and your team leader said, hey, every single person in the database needs to be on a drip campaign, a smart campaign, right? Or maybe you just decided because your coach told you, or your friend's like, yeah, or like my guy on Elizabeth, right? That's 7 years of automation, only 3 years of phone calls, 4 years of no phone calls. Don't follow my lead, right? But if you don't have your stages correct, then you're going to turn the automations off, because all of a sudden your hot lead's going to say, I haven't heard from you in a while. And you're going to say, oh my gosh, I can't believe it sent out that email. So the automation, most of the time agents shy away from automation because they're worried that it's going to say something that doesn't match where their client is, or it's going to say something that they don't like. And quite honestly, most of the campaigns that come like stock in our programs, they stink. They really do. That was before ChatGPT, you guys. If you've taken some time to customize ChatGPT, or even just talk to it and tell it, this is who I am, this is where I work, this is my tone of voice, help me, rewrite this campaign to sound more like me and be relevant in my marketplace. You could have a fully customized campaign like that. Like we don't have to be copywriters. Now, it's not going to be, I wouldn't copy and paste it. ChatGPT will get you 80 to 90% there. You're going to finish that 10% off and put it back into your CRM, right? Like don't copy and paste it, make it sound a little more human, especially if you haven't taken that time. So if you're reluctant to turn on a campaign, what does a campaign look like? Well, if you're in Lofty, that can be email and it can be text message. Right? If you're in Sierra, that can be email, text message, and voicemail drops, right? If you're in Follow Up Boss, it's mainly going to be email. The only time you can do text from the native platform is the very first touch. Otherwise, you need an add-on product to be able to do a texting campaign like Texting Betty or call action or something like that. So you have to think about that. Automation is to cover you when you're busy or when you're distracted. The other automation, though, outside of just the smart campaigns, even Boomtown has a campaign that's an if this then that, meaning If the lead has been shopping on the website in the past 7 days, send email A. If they haven't been shopping on the website in the past 7 days, send email B. And again, they're probably the most archaic out there when it comes to their smart dynamic campaigns, and even they have that. But read through them, make them sound a little bit more like you, and then just press go, as long as your people are in the right stage. But to set them up, I forget if it was, I forget, Ravi, I think, asked, what about assigning tags when leads come in? You can also assign campaigns, and you can assign campaigns to roll from one campaign to the next. So you can say anybody who comes in from Facebook or from Google, automatically start them on this campaign. And most of the platforms have an if this, then that. If they respond via text message or they call my automated number, right? Like your follow-up boss number, your Lofty phone number, your Sierra number, then stop the campaign. I highly recommend that you have that set up, that if they respond, that you stop the campaign. The only time I don't stop a campaign, if it's like a closed client campaign, I don't want to stop that campaign, but I want all my campaigns to pause if they're in any type of nurturing campaign. That was a little bit of a rant. What did I forget, Jeremy?
No, I like this thing that Heather wrote here. She said, what if you're crap at staying in touch with your database and haven't called them since they closed? How do you re-engage?
I should put Elisa on I should make her unmute, because hopefully she would know what I have coached her on the past, because she struggled with this for a while, but she doesn't anymore. Heather, I would just own up to it. So here's exactly what happened with my husband, Merrill. He got into the business before me, and I came in, and of course I was like, oh, we just have to work by referral. We have to work our database. So I remember asking him, I'm like, where's our database? And no joke, you guys, he handed me like a bunch of stuff from our lender, a printout from our broker, a printout from the MLS. He's like, here's everybody I've ever helped. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? So we spent like the next, I want to say 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 months, you guys. And what I would do is, no joke, because my husband is a high driver, and he's really good with empathy. I tease him but I would get a Post-it and I would just write 5 people's names on it, and I'd say, here's your assignment for the week. And he couldn't move on, pass go, collect $200 until he called those 5 people, got their birthday, gave me the home anniversary date if it was missing, right? So he had to put it into the database if it was missing. We had the phone number, so I just put their name and their phone number, and he just had to call. And this is exactly what his script was like. Hey, Gretchen, I'm just really embarrassed that I haven't called you in 5 years, and I'm sorry. I want to do better. And this year, I'm really committed to building these relationships. How have you been? Right? And go right into 4 questions: family, occupation, recreation, dream. But own up to it. Like, make it. I mean, he even did some funny jokes. Like, he would laugh. If you know my husband, he would laugh after he said, yeah, I suck. But I'm here now, and I want to do better. So you just have to own up to it, right? Like, own up to it and let them know that it's a goal. And moving forward, what does it look like, right? So, for Gretchen, I could say, so Gretchen, what you can expect moving forward is, I've actually been working really hard on a monthly email campaign that's going to allow you to monitor the value of your home, just like you do your bank account. It's a pink and black email. It comes from me every single month. In addition to that, I will be doing an annual equity review, where we'll actually go over how your home has performed since you purchased it and how it performs year over year. You can also expect to, and this is where you go into your SOI past client plan, right? Like, I do pop buys, I do events, I don't do all those things. But what I'm saying is, you pick, right? You can expect to get something in the mail from me occasionally. You can definitely expect to be invited to our upcoming XYZ event, right? And set the tone of what it looks like to move forward with you. Does that help, Heather? I can't see where Heather is, but.
What about Chase? He says, I want to send you a birthday card this year and wanted to confirm that you have the correct birthday.
Yes, I always joke, like, I don't need the year We can keep that secret, but I just need the day and the month because I love to, and this is very authentic to me, you guys. Like, one of my great clients, Brian Hilt, he's an incredible photographer and he sends me cards. And so that's actually what I was doing in between calls today as I'm doing handwritten note cards to my clients to just let them know that I appreciate them and I'm looking forward to working with them. And I'm utilizing Brian's cards. So let them know, like, I really enjoy good old fashioned snail mail and you're going to be getting some of that from me and I need your birthday.
We'll have a whale of a good time.
Yeah, this last set is a bunch of whales ones.
April says, I regret birthdays. I request birthdays as soon as we close as part of the auto email campaign. If they don't respond, we follow up with a call within 30 days to check. I like that one too. What are
Yeah,
some of the
and you could
Go ahead.
you,
Go
you
ahead.
could set a task on that. So to follow up with April, so this is another common mistake that I see is they're like, well, I requested a review and they never did it. I requested their birthday and they never got it to me. Well, whose job is it to make sure that we follow up and circle back and close that loop? That's our job. So put a task on that, right? Like put a task to go back so that it doesn't fall through the cracks and you can continue to ask and continue to move them forward.
I love that. What are some of the big mistakes that agents are making on their email campaigns? So if I'm going to set up an email campaign, what's one that they keep doing, or what do you recommend? Like, you have Sharon's deal of the week, you have other ones. What are they doing wrong, and then what should they do correct?
It's the lack of segmentation of your database. And this one's complicated because again, at its core, we already talked about stages, right? So your people should be segmented by how hot or cold they are, or maybe they're a past client, right? So what's an appropriate email that everybody in your database should get except for agents? It would be a market update, right? So a market update is something that's appropriate for everyone. The newsletter, that would be appropriate for everyone. But what's an email that might not be appropriate for every single person in your database and just a segment, right? What about the people that only came onto your website one time and haven't logged in 30 or 40 or 50 days? Right? What about the people that requested a home valuation and then never responded to you? Those are segments. Requests for review, yes. Don't send that to everybody. That would be a tag. So if everybody that has given us a review has that tag, I can eliminate them from the list and just send it to everybody that's done business with us, right? That hasn't given us a review. That would be an email. So, Jeremy, to answer your question, the common mistake I see is lack of segmentation, and we're just sending too generic of a message and hoping that they're going to raise their hand. This is something that I, as a cheat code, would recommend. Many of you guys, like I know Chase has a YouTube channel. Obviously, you have your YouTube channel. I don't know everybody on this call, but many of you guys are specialists in your neighborhoods and in your market, and you've created videos, right? You've created social media, you've created guides and different things like that, and then you don't use them in your email follow-up. Why not repurpose the really good information that you have as a local expert into your buyer campaign, right? When it's leaning, has anybody taken the time to go, to discuss the differences between Queen Creek and Gilbert? Right? That's probably either a social media thing that you did or a YouTube thing that you did, and it just lives out there, but we didn't pull it back in and use it in our email follow-up. So I would think about what's valuable to your clients is probably the same information you're sharing on YouTube and that you're sharing on social media, and repurpose that into your email campaigns. Oh, we can't hear you, Jeremy.
Good. I'm glad nobody heard that. Oof. Mary says, I'm on the boat exactly and got so overwhelmed that I dropped the ball, and a lot of people and many that were good to go, organizing my database this week to re-engage. This is, I think, the biggest thing for most people, and I keep going back to this, is like, I run off and start focusing on other things. We have coach calls and then I run off and forget about the database management. Do you think people should actually just put it in their calendar, like on this day, every week, or every once a month is database management? Call this amount of people, call these people in your database.
So there's this idea that do you ever stop cleaning your house? Like, right? Like I cleaned my house in 2025, so I'm done. I never have to clean it again. Right? Like, no. But my kids are not in school today, and they've been warned in a very nice, patient, motherly voice that I'm on a recorded call that's going onto YouTube. But like, it would be ridiculous to think that I cleaned my house, I washed my clothes, in January, so I don't have to wash them again until next January. Your database is the same way. If you don't, what happens to your house? Like, legitimately, what happens to your house, your car? We're realtors. I know many of you guys, your cars are probably like my daughters. Right? Like, what happens? It gets dirty, it gets messy, and then you feel overwhelmed and you're just like, burn it down, right? Close the door. Don't open that door. Don't open that drawer until I absolutely have to find what I need. Well, of course, your database is going to feel that way. It's never done. So yes, Jeremy, like, this is something that requires just that little bit, like, just, it's kind of like loading the dishwasher before you go to bed. You're going to wake up a lot happier tomorrow with a clean kitchen. So how do you shut down your CRM so that tomorrow you can walk into it and you're not like, oh, I hate life and I'm just not going to eat at home anymore because I don't want to, right? Like, you have to think about that. It's little things. So for me, I don't schedule tasks for myself on days that I know I'm not going to work. So I don't schedule tasks for Saturday and Sunday because I don't want to log in on Monday and have 150 past due tasks and reminders. And then I'm like, forget it. Like, right? Like, nobody wants to do that. I'll just go watch cat videos on Instagram because that's going to give me a better feeling than logging into a system and feeling completely overwhelmed. So it is continual. It is ongoing. Rambo also asked a question. He said, do you add every lead into the CRM or do we qualify them before adding? So my rule is every single person goes into the CRM, and I set up systems and tools so that I don't have to manually enter them in. The only time I manually enter them in is if Jeremy was like, hey, Kristi, I've got a referral for you, and he's going to email me the referral, or he's going to text me, I manually enter that in. If anybody calls my sign, anybody, like, the phone numbers that I have out on the web, you guys, those are phone numbers that automatically import into my CRM. Every lead magnet, every link automatically creates a lead inside my CRM because I never want to miss an opportunity. So even if it turns out that it was just, a stager calling me, I'll move them over to vendor and, put them into the stage so that they don't get mixed up with leads. But every single person goes in because I've also found that I can meet someone at an open house and then they find me on Zillow. And I want to know, oh, well, yeah, they came through on Zillow, but I actually met them at an open house 3 months ago. Or they came through on Google and then they came through my open house. So I like to track it by lead source. Everybody goes in. And then also, like, how can I use automation if they're not in my CRM? I can't put them on a campaign, right? I can't, whether it's text message or email, I can't protect my human time by letting the automations happen if they're not in the CRM. And then you're more likely to forget about them as well.
How do you automate that though? Like, is there a
Which
way to
part?
automate when they come through so they go in? What I'm getting at is, do you use Zapier?
Yes, thank you. Yes. So someone also asked, like, how does it go in automatically? So correct. Most lead sources will communicate with your CRM. You just need to go through and set it up. They use email parsers or they use Zapier, which is a third-party tool that connects platforms. So if it's a web-based lead, it doesn't matter the source. If it's a web-based lead, you can automatically have it import, and you should. It's going to save you a lot of headaches and a lot of time, and it also helps with lead sourcing. Phone calls are a little bit more tricky. The easiest answer, and most of you guys are going to hate this and you're going to hang up and not even finish this call because I'm going to piss you off. you should be, you should be using trackable phone numbers. Stop using your cell phone. Just stop. Right? If you're in Lofty, use your Lofty phone number. If you're in Follow Up Boss, use a Follow Up Boss. Use your Sierra phone number or purchase a phone number like I did. I use CallRail, and so all of my phone numbers are trackable. So when someone calls my sign, it's a trackable phone number that automatically creates a lead inside my CRM. If you call me from Google, it does the same thing. If you call me from Zillow, it does the same thing. In fact, if you call me from my Zillow profile, it does that. I create marketing pieces. If I sponsor the marching band and have a banner with a phone number on it, that's a trackable phone number, because when the marching band comes to me next year and says, hey, will you sponsor us? I want to know that I got 15 calls from the marching band banner. If you're using your cell phone for everything, you're not able to track your sources accurately.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's huge. So we started using, Eileen and I started using it, and I always get like a email forwarded me from Eileen. It's like, you had a call from Google, and then it shows me like the tracking of what it was. So I love that. That's one of the tools that we use. Like on our our listing signs have a tag, Google, YouTube. So then I can track, when the calls are coming from YouTube. But what's funny is like a lot of them are YouTube calls, but they're calling from Google, right? Or they're calling from something else. So they found me on YouTube, looked at my Google reviews, or they looked at me on Zillow and then called me from one of those.
So someone asked the question, are
Yeah,
all
all those
those
numbers are
numbers
different.
different? Yes. So Julia, the reason that I'm using different phone numbers is because I want to track my marketing dollars. So this was actually an actual example. We sponsored the Post and Butte marching band because I had a cousin that was going there. And so of course I wanted to support my cousin. We never got a single call from the Post and Butte marching band with our banner, right? So when my cousin, unfortunately, maybe that makes me not so nice for Post and Butte, but at the end of the day, when I didn't have a family member there, I was like, this really isn't a good use of my marketing dollars. I can't justify continuing to sponsor the marching band in this capacity because this banner is not working. That means I can go back to the marching band and say, and show them like, hey, I'd love to do this. What other ways can we partner together that will actually be beneficial to both of us? And that's where the different phone numbers come into play. What service do you use that will provide you with that many different numbers? There's a lot of different services out there. My favorite one that I've been with for a long time that's really easy to use is called CallRail, CallRail. And the reason that I like CallRail, this ties back into AI and automation, which Jeremy was asking about, is that all of the calls, so it does call capture. So in my listing appointment, one of the things that we tell our sellers is that we will never miss a phone call because we use advanced technology that allows us to capture every single call. If they hit send and then hang up, doesn't matter. It captures them as a lead, and then it automatically puts it into my CRM. It captures all the calls. It records all of the calls as well. So again, if you're using your follow-up boss number or you're using your CRM phone number, it's going to record the call. So now I have a transcript, which allows me to answer calls in the car or, step outside if my kids are being loud, right? Because how many times do we make all of our calls sitting at our desk, perfectly in a position where we're not distracted or anything, right? Like, no, that's not how it works. So I love, and it also allows me to route calls. So here's a big one. How many of you guys would like to go on vacation and not have your phone ring, but also feel like your clients are being taken care of? So because it does call distribution as well, I could assign my phone number to McKenna and just say, hey, McKenna, will you cover for me this weekend? Meryl and I are going out of town. And I could just put her on there and take myself off. So now all my signs calls are getting, all my Google, all my calls are getting answered and they're still getting tracked, but my phone's not ringing. So I can enjoy my vacation. I mean, I wouldn't hand McKenna my cell phone, right? Like I use my cell phone for everything, but imagine just being able to transfer my calls to her. And then when I come back, I even do it for my lender. So we have 3 lenders that we use and we waterfall our lenders. So my primary lender, his phone will ring 5 times and then it transfers to my next lender, which will ring 5 times and then it'll transfer to my third lender, right? Like So my first lender better be Johnny on the spot when he can, because it's only going to ring to him 5 times and then it's going to waterfall. So I can actually do that across a team as well, to be able to distribute. Like I can say ring to Meryl and I first, and if we don't answer within 3 or 4 rings, then ring everybody else.
I love it. I love it. All right, we got a couple other questions in here. Once you connect with a client at that point, do you give them your real number? Of course.
No. Yes. So what I tell people, because especially nowadays, we're very accustomed to like our dentist texting us and our doctor texting us, right? And we know like, and actually if they text your phone number, it's fine. It's going to ring to your cell phone. So what I'll tell them is I'll say, this is my business line. You can reach me on my business line, and this is my cell phone. I try not to move to the cell phone, but here's the honest truth. So like if I was just preaching to you guys, I'd say don't give them your cell phone number, just operate out of your CRM. But sometimes when you're in the field and they're lost and there's that transfer of communication, right? And I just pick up and I'm not in the app, I'm not calling from the app. So oftentimes when I'm getting ready to show, I'll make sure they have my cell phone number. But the cool thing is you can CC your CRM phone number. So all the communication can still get logged into the CRM. And that's probably one of the things that we didn't discuss, Jeremy, but like if you're doing a high volume of real estate, it's only a matter of when someone is going to report you for something, right? Like it just happens. You're going to piss another agent off and they're going to report
Why
you.
you point at me when you say that?
No, like I swear I get the most ridiculous calls about stupid little things, but um, I think it was last year or the year before, I had a really big incident with another agent. And luckily, because all my communication took place through my CRM, I was able to actually defend myself and I didn't have a violation against me because everything was documented and it was so easy to find. Without that, right, we're putting ourselves at risk. So, and especially with our clients, right, they say, oh, you said you were going to ask them to repair this. And, I document everything just to protect myself. And that's why I also utilize these phone numbers and I try to stay away from my cell phone number when possible.
So this sounds amazing. Helmer says, so this sounds amazing, but how do we get the phone number set up? Is that a service?
It's pretty easy. If you find yourself though technical, like if you say I'm just no good with technology or something like that, then at that point I would recommend just like literally hire it out. Find someone on Fiverr, find your favorite tech friend, buy them lunch, something like that. Call Rail, call Action, call Fire. They all have tech support and they will walk you through it. Where you're probably going to get stuck is creating the Zap. And that's where I would just go to like Upwork or Fiverr, like hire a VA, just a flat fee to have everything set up. Don't sit on it because you don't know how to do it. Just find someone and pay them and have the peace of mind.
Love that.
Yeah, interns. Yes. Elisa uses interns every single year. She has a laundry list of things that they do for her. And many times we have this kind of stuff is what they do for her.
Heather's got a question.
I do. So when you're trying to, like, you want to set up a weekly newsletter, right, to your database.
Mhm.
And if you get too many people opting out or it hits spam or it bounces, you can be put in what I call lofty jail, right? They basically stop your account. So how do you roll that out in a way that's not going to get your account locked up?
So Heather, that's a really good question. And it comes back to a couple steps. And I will say that like that's not my area of expertise, but here's what my coach had told me and the research that I've done and what we've put in place to knock it and put in lofty jail, right? So the first thing is that I'm not going to email leads that I don't have permission to email, right? So don't buy a list of people, right? I know probably nobody on this call has ever done that, and please don't, right? You have to warm those people up. And we also don't utilize our CRM directly. We use an email service provider to be able to help and protect us so that we don't get locked out of our regular email. So as I said, it's complicated. Make sure the list that you're emailing is a good list and that you also have a double opt-in. So you might want to ask your clients who's interested in it, right? So like Follow Up Boss actually sets it up so that you can't email your entire database at once. It like limits the amount that you can put out, and so does Sierra. So Sierra also has a limit of how many that can go out. I bet Lofty does too. I'm just not as familiar with. But if it's a really cold list, right? I've got 35,000 people in my account, and many of them are not active. They're not doing something. I'm not going to email them from my CRM. I'm going to go over to MailChimp. I'm going to go over to Lofty. I'm going to go over to Emma or some Blue, Send in Blue, something like that. And then I'm going to warm those people up, and I'm going to use an email service provider so that I don't get locked out of my main account. And there are people that you can hire that can help you with your email deliverability. So if you're struggling with email deliverability, then that's go to Upwork or go. I think I got a referral from Stat Solutions once, and they helped my client really increase their email deliverability. But don't email cold leads the same way you would email your past clients in your sphere. So that way you don't get locked out.
Yeah, I use Flowdesk, and then my Flowdesk gets locked out. So
You've been working on deliverability.
yeah, I know what you're going through, but yeah, you're right. You got to warm them up. You can't just like, I mean, I had a problem where we were sending to agents about the event we did a couple of years ago in Austin, and because it was open to everybody, and oh my God, if I sent out anything else after that, like everything got flagged. So we've gone through and tried to fix that.
I once heard Jason Pantana say it like this, and it really connected to me. So there's been times where I've run contests, right? Like even at my open house, and maybe that's not allowed in your marketplace, and maybe it's not allowed in my marketplace. Don't tell on me. It's just going on YouTube. But I'd be like, enter to win an iPad, right? Like we run contests, or maybe you run a contest on your Facebook page, right? Like comment below. I know several people have done like the 12 days of Christmas and things like that, where we're collecting email addresses, we're collecting people's information. Well, just because I wanted to take part in your 12 days of Christmas doesn't mean that you have permission to market to me, right? And they're going to opt out. And that's where you really want to protect yourself and make sure you have a double opt-in, and that you are, especially with newsletters, like you want people to opt in. And even then you'll probably get an email this week that says, hey, we haven't heard from you for a while. Do you still want to be here? Do you still want to get our emails? Right? That's just you protecting yourself. So that segmentation, that kind of goes back to one of the common mistakes, is like, just because I collected all these email addresses because I was running the 12 days of Christmas doesn't mean I have permission to market to them, and I can't treat them the same way that I would a past client and a sphere.
What about how do you warm them up?
I don't have an easy answer for that. I don't have it, but we'd have to go in and ask the AI. Like, so here's honestly, like if I were to do this today, if like my coach said, hey, Kristi, you've got 20,000 people that, have not been active on your website. They're not engaging. They're not responding to phone calls. But you met them via Zillow or some, they're in my database. I didn't buy the lead. I didn't buy the list, right? They somehow came onto my website and I got their information. I'd probably go to the AI and say, I have online leads that either came in through one of these 5 portals. Some of them are 1 year old, some of them are 12 years old. Help me craft a series of emails to warm them up and re-engage them. Here's my marketplace. Here's who I am. Here's my ideal client. Here's, what's going on. Like, that's probably what I would do, is I would fill the AI in, and then I'd see what it would spit back out and what resonated with me. I'd probably try to get them to my social media or to my YouTube channel, right? So that they could learn a little bit more about me. But I would not treat them the same way that I would treat people that I already have rapport with and who know, like, and trust me.
Well, I think we might have to leave it there. It's 2:30.
Yeah, I know we were supposed to go 30 minutes, I thought.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, I meant, 30 an hour. Yeah, everybody, let's give a huge thank you to Kristi. I really appreciate, earlier I put her Instagram in there. Just look Kristi Jencks up on Instagram, follow her. I'm doing Agent Tactics. I created a whole other Instagram just because I didn't want everything, both agent and, client facing on the same page. So I'll do replay clips, all of that stuff. Make sure you subscribe, follow. I thank you, everybody. And Kristi, thank you again. You're amazing.
Yeah, I'll end with this, you guys. I love what James Clear talks about in his book, Atomic Habits. Let's just get 1% better. I'm sure something was shared today that you could take immediate action, even if all it is I open up my CRM every day. Right? Like, at least open it up. Some of you haven't looked at your CRM in like a month. Just open it up and get started. One small action every single day is like picking up that laundry, doing the dishes. You'll get the house clean eventually.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody. And
everybody.
everybody, thank you, Kristi. Make sure you follow her. She's amazing. She's my coach, everybody. She's the reason why we're doing better. So thank you.